Good evening and welcome to Wisdom Wednesday. My name is Naomi. I go by the How To Chick, and I am here tonight to talk to you a little bit about how to de stress your holiday. If this is your first time catching one of my lives, my name is Naomi and I go by the How To Chick. I'm a child of God, a wife, a mom, an attorney, a coach, a mentor, a speaker, and a new author. And if you haven't already, you can get your copy of my book on my website right here www.thehowto2chick.com/glory. And what I have written is a 30-day devotional workbook for women who have been carrying the load of doing other people's work for far too long. So long, in fact, that they've lost themselves, they've lost their own goals, and they've lost the capacity to love with limits. It is an amazing opportunity for you to get a reset on the relationships that you have. And as you all know, if you have watched me for any period of time, I come on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to talk about relationships. Most importantly, the relationship that we have with ourselves and with God, because it necessarily shapes every relationship we have. It's the holiday season, and it just started. And there has been so much going on this year that many people are just on autopilot, burned out, frustrated, overwhelmed, financially stressed. And in truth, most moms juggle the bulk of the mental load. Three big concerns I hear all the time from my friends, from other moms, from my coaching clients, even from my coworkers. Am I doing enough to make the holidays special? Am I spending too much on gifts? The cost of making it just right, not just nice, just right, can sometimes be overwhelming. And lastly, dealing with family dynamics, stress, and emotional overload when it comes to navigating those complicated family relationships. How can you decrease these stressors? And I wanted to come on and talk about that because I have a lot of firsthand experience with this. This may be the first year for you where you felt like maybe we shouldn't spend this big dollar amount, whatever that dollar amount is for you on Christmas. Maybe we shouldn't try to fly the family to wherever your family is from to visit for Christmas. Maybe it might be too much for us to host our entire family when we know that there are people who have gone no contact with other people in their family, and you're wondering, where do we draw the line? How is it practical to implement this? And what should my focus be so that I have a clear path to making better decisions around my holiday spending, around the obligations that I commit myself and my family to, and around the money that I'm spending this holiday season? And so I wanted to come on and talk briefly about those three things. One, how to make it, the fear that sometimes some moms have, sorry, the fear that some moms have that they have not done enough to make it perfect. Two, money, gifts, and the actual cost, because you must count the cost of making it nice. And three, family dynamics and overload. I'm doing that last because we all know that's going to be a biggie. The first thing is wondering if you're doing enough. And I am so grateful for the periods that I've gone through where things have just been so tight that I couldn't do more than I wanted to do. And for my grandmother. My grandmother was an incredibly frugal woman, but she decorated her home beautifully for every holiday. She had her things, she slowly added to them over time. She put them away meticulously in bins labeled in her basement, and she used her same decorations every year. And what she taught me was, one, if I don't love it, I don't need it. Two, don't buy fast decor, just like fast fashion. And three, take care of what you have and make sure you have a place for what you have before you make this decision. So the goal has to shift from the perfect holiday. And this is the question: am I doing enough to make it special? The goal has to shift from the perfect holiday to making it meaningful. You have to define what your good enough holiday is for you in I recommend 3 bullets. If you're a mom of young kids, if your kids remember what? Making cookies, making a snowman, going ice skating, watching a holiday movie with popcorn and hot chocolate. If we do what together? Going to pick out a Christmas tree, going caroling, again, making cookies or watching a holiday movie together. If I feel what in my heart and mind, the holiday will be meaningful. It is really important for you to answer these questions for yourself, for your family, and for your kids. You're the only one who can do that. What is it that you want your kids to remember? What are the non negotiables that your family has to do together to make your holiday meaningful? And what do you want to feel? If you can get those things written down, journaled out, whatever, you're going to know exactly what your blueprint is to make the holiday special. So it's important to pick 1 to 2 anchor moments and not try to do 100 little extras. And I'm telling you this as a mom who has tried to do all of the things, the gingerbread cookies, the going out to the fancy light things. And what I recognized is our kids are already tired, stressed, and overscheduled for the most part. In 2025, they have hobbies, they have music lessons, they have homework, they have friends. They don't need or want to do something every single day. Pick your anchor moments. A cozy movie night with hot chocolate, a family photo night, even if you do it at home with your little tripod and your camera in front of your Christmas tree. A simple tradition, driving around in a neighborhood to see Christmas lights. Or, where we live in DC, there are a number of places where you can go either for free or you can pay a small fee for the car and drive through and see the lights. That's a great thing. Baking cookies, decorating the tree together. Tell yourself, if these 3, 5, 7 moments happen during the space of this month, the holiday is a win. Everything else is a bonus. The next thing is kill comparison at the source. And I need to repeat this about 10 times. And the reason I need to repeat this is because this is really what happens when we allow ourselves to get caught up on what everyone else is doing. Kill comparison at the source. I follow a woman on, I think she's on YouTube, but she's also on Instagram. And she calls herself a de-influencer. What really happens during the holidays is we see the commercials, we see what other people are doing, we are scrolling our feed, and we see people with these beautiful homes with all of these great decorations, and we think, why can't I do that? Or why haven't I done that? De influence yourself. If you find yourself scrolling your feed and finding things that trigger you and make you want to feel like you're not doing enough or want to do more, mute the account or hide the account. You can do this on Facebook. You can mute somebody for 30 days. You can simply unfollow an influencer and you can keep a note that allows you to go back and follow them later if you really want to, especially if it's a friend. Because it can be difficult, right? If you have friends that are in different tax brackets than you, and it's important not to get into a space of covetousness. Do what you can with what you have and remind yourself that you're seeing somebody else's highlight reel, not their real behind the scenes life. You are not seeing the meltdowns. You are not seeing those credit card bills. You don't even know what the dynamics are in that family. You have to do what is best and what works for your family. The next thing is, if you have kids who are at home and who don't just come home for the holidays, let the kids help design the holidays. Ask them, what's one thing you really want to do this year? And I've let my kids do that for vacations. I'm like, well, if we do this, then we can't also do this. One year they really wanted to go to New York. We went to New York, but that meant we couldn't go to the beach. And this is a summer vacation. But we do the same thing for holidays. We can't do everything. And you have to choose. Let them be involved, because then they feel like they have some control over things and you are being honest and not overstretching yourself. Kids are simpler than we think, though. When you let them choose, you may think they want to go do this. There's a hotel called the Gaylord that has this amazing like experience with like snow tubing and sledding and like it's decorated beautifully, but it is pricey. And for about 3 years, and I was following an influencer. That's how I found out about it. And she took her kids and she posted these videos. And I was like, I really want to do the Gaylord with the kids. The kids didn't know what the Gaylord was. They had never been. And why would I spend that money and set that expectation? So then now it's on their to-do list for every year. Kids are simpler than we think. And in many cases, they care more about time with each other, time with you and the family, and time with their friends than they do about big fancy spending. And I think it's really important, especially when you get to the tweens, to just be honest and recognize they're not going to want to spend all their time with you. So you may not have to do as much designing of the perfect family holiday because they're going to want to get out and do their own things. The next thing is create tiny memory rituals, tiny ones. You don't have to do a Pinterest production for everything. I highly recommend, and we are doing, my husband decided this for the family, that we are sitting down when we are at dinner together, which is most nights, and we're going to say something that we're thankful for. 10 seconds every night. Today, I'm thankful for. You can do a photo in front of the tree. These are low energy for you, but they're high reward because they create memories, right? Sometimes we videotape the kids with what they're thankful for, and these aren't things to post. These are memories for you to remind you that you are doing enough. You are enough. Full stop. The next big topic is money, gifts, and the cost of making it nice. Like I said previously, I did learn from my grandmother not to buy a bunch of stuff every single holiday, to take care of the things that I have. I've been using my same tree and my same holiday decor for years, and I know people do theme trees. People go out and spend and change their holiday colors every year, or they may have 3 or 4 colors that they rotate through over the years. That's not my ministry. I have to be frugal, and my frugality means I got my one tree, I got my set of ornaments, and that is what I use. I may not put them all up every year, but what I have is what I have, and I work with that. It's important to ensure, because for many of us, we try to put money aside during the year for savings and things like that, or we'll just set a budget knowing that, every couple of months we have a pot of funds to do things with. If you do not set a budget, an outer limit on what you will spend, you will just keep spending. So the first thing is set a budget. And I don't mean set a budget in a vacuum. We are moms. We have a million tabs open. You know what the things that your kids cost when they're little. It's easy, right? They like everything that makes noise, those little plastic dinky toys from, that you can get at Ross and TJ Maxx, but, also at the other retailers. This holiday season is interesting, though, because there have been a lot of boycotts. And if you are participating, I've been participating. I told my kids, and my youngest is now 7, that we were going to try to do memorable gifts. We were going to try to make something or purchase one thing that we knew somebody really, really wanted. And we were going to try to source it ethically, locally from a small business. It is important to consider your values when making your budget. If you don't have a lot of money and you're going to be shopping at your Walmart, your Kohl's, your Dollar Tree, things like that, you can do that for your younger kids, but then you have to set the budget that matches that. You need a total holiday budget that has to include your food, and the price of food has been sky high. And you have to have a gift budget per child or person. I think it's always important to set a boundary in your family. I do not gift my adult siblings. I do not gift my parents. When my nieces and nephews come to visit, I gift them. But I don't gift people who are not children. I set aside a budget, and in my budget, I include white elephant, holiday parties that I'm going to, and I do that by adding about 10% to my budget, which is my contingency. The framework that I use for gifting, and I've talked about this before, it is so helpful because it keeps me from overbuying, overspending, and overconsuming. Because in our home, we're big on not overconsuming. We've lived in really small spaces, and my kids still share spaces to a great extent. So we want to make sure that they do not have so much stuff that it now becomes difficult for them to keep it neat. This is for my sanity too. So the framework that I use, and I've used this for at least the past 10 years, is the kids all get something they want, something they need, something to wear, and something to read. In past years, we've also done a family experience. We still do that. Usually it's our holiday card or going to see the lights. But the four, something to wear, something to read, something they want, something they need. And depending on your financial circumstances, we have talked to our family because we've told them, hey, we don't want the kids getting so much stuff. We have a small space. So if you'd like to get them something, let me know. And I check it off my list as, oh, they want to get my son this gift that he really wants. So that's his something he wants. My sister is a librarian. She loves to shop for books. Every year I say, hey, are you going to be doing the books this year? She says, yes. I check off the something to read. And that's the way I handle it in my house. I know that for some people, there is an emotional component to buying gifts. You want to shower your children with all of the things that you never had. But it is so important to recognize that setting an outer limit on the gifts, one, decreases the likelihood that you're going to end up getting them stuff they don't want, they don't need, they don't appreciate, and that you will have regrets about buying in a few weeks. And it also teaches them to stop that new one more thing syndrome where they always need the next thing. It is important to be mindful with your consumption. Even if you have a huge house, regardless of what my budget is, I think I would still use this rule. The caliber and quality of gifts would change. And again, my kids run the gamut. So my older kids get much different gifts. But we keep to the formula because the formula helps us, A, to set a budget that we can stick with, B, to consume responsibly and teach our children to consume responsibly, and C, it gives us a framework by which we continue to set expectations for our kids around what the holiday is going to be. The more you give, the more they expect. And sometimes you found yourself having rough years and your kids are looking around like, oh, what is this? My kids are always going to get their four things. And that is what has kept, everything going and kept me from feeling like a failure, even in the hard years. So the next thing is switch for more stuff. If you're using the formula, something they want, something they need, something to wear, and something to read, and even something to do, you can switch from buying the extra gifts, the more stuff, to shared experiences. Play board games together. Do those night drives with the holiday music playing. Go out and do a cookie baking contest. I've even signed up for a baking class with my younger daughter because it's something she wanted to do. Experiences. So while you may budget for them and they may cost, they're not a gift that they're opening on Christmas Day. It's not a piece of plastic that ends up in a landfill in 8 months or you step on and break 2 days after Christmas. The next thing is pre-decide what you're not going to do. Literally write, this year we're not going to do matching pajamas for the whole family. We're not going to do 7 holiday events in one weekend. We're not going to do individual gifts for every teacher, coach, neighbor, pastor, whoever. You can do simple group gifts. You can do thoughtful notes, or you can bake. And that goes back to the experiences. So for my kids, because I have 5 of them, when they are in school, it can be difficult to get gifts for all these teachers. So we started a thing where we would bake something nice for the teachers and get them a smaller gift card. So instead of $10, $15, they get a single drink at Starbucks. And it saved money, but it also was a way to have an experience and have the child involved in the gift giving to that teacher. So I encourage that. The next thing is use calm, honest language with your family, especially your kids. I've had to tell each one of my kids many times, hey, we're keeping things simple this year for our budget and for our peace, my peace of mind, our sanity. We love you, but we need to focus more on time together than big gifts. And it's so important because in many cases, we find it easier to set boundaries with outside people than our own families, or people who struggle to set boundaries at all may find this incredibly difficult. And how many times have you run up a credit card or taken out a loan to do a holiday because you didn't want people to know that it had been a hard year, that you didn't have anything saved, that you didn't have the capacity to do what you normally do? These conversations aren't just for your kids, they're also for your family. If you're a host, if you're a person who normally has people over to do things, people might be surprised to hear you honestly admit it, because a lot of people want to pretend everything's okay. But it models healthy limits and it can change the dynamics of your relationship. Other people will be like, I'm in the same boat, me too. This is just what I found. And so I think it's important to remember the cost of making things nice cannot be your sanity, your peace, or your budget. So remember, one, set a budget that's based on a real number, not how you feel. It has to be something you can actually afford that won't increase your debt. Two, use a simple gift framework, something they want, something they need, something to wear, something to read. Three, switch from stuff to shared experiences. Four, pre decide what you're not going to do, communicate that clearly. And five, use calm, honest language with your family and be consistent. Practice holding that boundary. Are we going to know? No, we decided that we were going to do these four things this year. Or something comes up at school, a fundraiser. I'm sorry, we're not going to do that this year. We have pre decided what we're going to do for this year. Practice holding your boundaries when it comes to your money to preserve your peace. The last topic is family dynamics and emotional overload. And I'll be the first to admit that this can be one of the hardest things to manage during the holiday season. But your goal has to be protect your peace, protect your children's peace, remain emotionally regulated, even if everything around you is chaotic. Practical ways to do this include deciding your non negotiables for your sanity. That can mean a certain family member is not allowed in your house, or not allowed in your house unsupervised, or not allowed in your house if they're drinking or on drugs. It can also mean I'm not going to stay at any event past 8 o'clock, past 7:30, past 9 o'clock. I will not have, I will not discuss, sorry, it's like I don't want to have certain conversations with certain people. So you can say, I'm not going to discuss politics with this person. I'm not going to discuss religion with this person. I'm not going to discuss what I'm doing in my marriage with this person. Decide it in advance and stick to it. Those have to be your non negotiables. Stick to it. I always say we're going to have one full day at home with no plans. And that's really hard to do in this season. Our weekends are packed with all of the kids' activities, but I've already decided we are going to have one full day at home with no activities before Christmas. We all know that wonderful week between Christmas and New Year can have many of those days, but sometimes you need it in the wrap up. The second thing is to have your exit plans and your boundary phrases ready. I tell my kids this all the time. You have to practice for your peace. So if you have difficult people in your family, you have difficult people that you have to be around, people who will say any and anything to anybody, people who will come for you or your kids. I'm stepping outside to get some air. I'll be back. Let's change the subject. I would rather not get into that today. And if they keep going, if they keep pushing, repeat, smile, repeat. And then again, once you get to the place where you recognize they're not going to acknowledge that boundary, hey, I'm going to step outside to get some air. And you make a decision about whether or not you're going to stay in that space. The third thing is to share the mental load. This is so important for moms. Don't hold the holiday in your head. I need you to understand this. I've done this for so many years and it makes me crazy and it makes my family crazy. Make a shared checklist for food with my husband, for gifts and for cleaning that includes the kids. Assign tasks. Give other people things to do, especially if you're hosting. Give kids age appropriate jobs so they feel included. My kids feel worked, so maybe a little less here. But make sure that you are communicating what your desires and expectations are and allowing other people to help. For protect your small pockets of restoration. For me, that means I have to do my devotional and I have to have my coffee in silence and peace. For you, that might mean 5 minutes, 10 minutes of deep breathing. It might mean going to the gym for 30 minutes. It might mean a short walk by yourself after dinner. It might mean, reading for, an hour, whatever you need to do. Protect those pockets that you need to restore your peace. I'm an introvert, so I may need longer pockets than others, but you know yourself. Whatever you need, make sure you take it. Tiny spaces for recovery prevent gigantic meltdowns. Trust me. 5, allow mixed emotions. The holidays can be full of grief for a lot of people. We don't just have grief, we have disappointments, we have frustrations. The thing about grief is the cycle brings out all of the emotions, and we may not feel like we're grieving. We may just be angry. We may just be disappointed. We may just be sad. We may look at other people and remember wounds and disappointments that we've dealt with that have brought us to this place. And we may look at our lives. A lot of people start taking stock around the end of the year and feel less than, inferior, unaccomplished. Give yourself permission to feel what you feel without judging that feeling. Emotional honesty will lower the pressure in your spirit. Journal it. If you have a therapist, you guys know I am the queen of please. If you have the capacity and the privilege of health insurance that covers mental health, find yourself a good therapist. Give yourself permission to sit with the feelings and recognize that when you do that, you've given yourself grace, but you've also given yourself a plan, a path to hope for a different outcome next year. If you try to fix everything at once, you're not going to do anything. So, of what I've said today, I highly recommend that you pick one area to focus on first. It's the first week of December. Get on that budget, mamas. Get on that budget. If you know your family is psychotic and you and your husband go back and forth between your families and you can't decide which one is worse, sit down and make a plan to deal with the family dynamic. If you are a type A OCD mom who keeps everything in her head and has already done 57 spreadsheets, sit down and figure out how to release the pressure of making it magic and making it perfect. That was never your job. Your job was to make it enough for your family, your kids, and you. Choose one action from the list, one action, and do it in the next 24 hours. Write your 3 good enough holiday bullets. Set a total budget number, a pre-kid spending limit. Decide your non-negotiables and at least write down one boundary phrase. Every single one of us has boundary pushes in our family. Sit down with your spouse. If you're not married, sit down with a friend, your best friend, your sister, your mom. Tell somebody your plan. This year, this is what I'm doing differently so I don't have to be so stressed. Saying it out loud creates accountability. It makes it more likely that you're going to follow through, and it creates a support system for you. So it needs to be someone who's close to you, someone who will see you, someone who will say, hey, I thought that we had decided. Get accountability. If you tell me in the comments which one of these 3 stresses hits you the hardest around this time of year, I will actually post some of these tips specifically to respond to it, because it can be non-intuitive, but once you start doing it, you will find yourself releasing pressure and getting to peace, getting to a place where you actually enjoy your holiday planning and you're not going into January with regrets. This was a hard space for me to get to. Again, my youngest is 7, but we have 3 birthdays in the month after Christmas, and it is rough. It's rough. And so it has been a journey and a process of getting to a place where I allow myself to fully enjoy and experience what we have decided to do for the holiday. No more, no less. Give yourself grace. Be willing to be flexible. It's okay to not stick to the exact plan, as long as that plan doesn't involve the budget or your boundaries. And remember, you can do anything, but you cannot do everything. Choose wisely. I hope that you and your family have an amazing holiday. I'll be back next week to talk a little bit more about how to deal with stress and grief during this season. Have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you next week. Good night.